morning. Welcome to Job Club. I'm Diana Doggett. I'm the Fayette County Cooperative Extension Family and Consumer Sciences Agent. And I am thrilled to invite you today to hear a guest speaker that has been with us from the very beginning of Job Club, which started 2.5 years ago right here in this office, the Fayette Extension office. We're so pleased to have Rick Johnson join us and give us a summary of what it takes to land a job. And Rick has tremendous connections. He's been here. He has led many of you to just the right destinations for your job. And so we're happy to have him today. And first of all, I want to introduce him. Rick is Associate Vice President at Kentucky Science and Technology Corporation. At KSTC, Rick works with high-tech startups across the state, helping them grow. Previously, Rick ran 2 closely held electronic manufacturing companies and divisions of 2 publicly traded electronic manufacturing companies. Rick started his career as a design engineer and progressed into engineering management, sales management, and then general management. Rick has experience in the telecommunications, petrochemical, security, transportation, components, electronic, sensing, and capital equipment markets. Rick holds a BS in electrical engineering from UC Berkeley, an MS in electrical engineering from Stanford University, and an MBA from UCLA. Rick has been awarded 4 U.S. patents. We're thrilled to have Rick, as always, and we want to remind you that Job Club meets the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays of each and every month. It's open to everyone in the community, and we continue to just be amazed at the response of the jobs that our attendees have acquired. For more information, please contact or visit our website at fayette.ca.uky.edu. And now, Rick Johnson.
So I was with the company 15 years, grew it from 30 people to 1,800, sold it to Honeywell. It was a family-owned business. So I got hired 3 more times by family-run businesses that wanted, that were in trouble. So I was a turnaround guy. They wanted to fix the company and then sell it. So my experience on finding jobs is actually real. I've been, just like you, looking for jobs, and I actually got pretty good at it. So the stories I have, the personal stories, are from my experiences trying to help other people, because people help me, so it's sort of me giving back. So Job Club started a little after Lexmark shut down their inkjet printer division and laid off 550 people here in Lexington. And what a shame to lose that human capital. So I came to the first Job Club, and there were a lot of former Lexmark people there that had spent most of their career with Lexmark or IBM and had never had to look for a job. And I don't care how smart you are, if you haven't done something before, you're not going to be an expert at it. And Job Club, when I sat through those first several months, it was wonderful. The program that they had, they teach people, you know, what to do about their personal finances so their savings could last longer. They talk to people about resumes and interviewing skills and mock interviews and networking, and it just went on and on. I always thought it was a shame that if somebody showed up new, that they were going to have to sit through 4 months of programming till they got everything they needed. In me, I'm a very, very impatient person. And so I would want it all right away. And so I suggested to Caroline that we have this sort of Job Club for Dummies, where we look at the very, very important topics and go over them all very quickly. So that's what I'm going to talk to you about here today. Some things that I have found in my personal career were very, very important to do very well. You have to do them all very, very well too. So let's see what we have. I'm in trouble now. Okay. It's booting up. Okay. I wasn't here. Pregnant pause there, huh? I talk too much without. So I give you. You are going to have a handout at the end. I don't want people reading ahead, though. I want them paying attention to me. I'm very peculiar that way. So the biggest mistake that most people make is they think that if they send a resume out online, they're going to get a job. And it doesn't work that way. Getting a job is a two-part process. The first part is don't get eliminated, and it lasts a really, really long time. We advertised for an administrative assistant at KSTC, and I think we got 625 resumes. And think of the person that has to go through those 625. I mean, what a terrible job. They have just so many. So what do? They try to quickly go through the list and cull the herd, right? Get rid of the ones that the resumes just don't look right. There are misspellings on the cover letter. The cover letter's like 3 pages long. It just goes on and on. So if you're in the mindset that on the 2 phases of getting a job, and the first one is don't get eliminated, it will change your behavior, okay? Get over it. So when you're out of work, it makes you feel bad. Why did they pick you? And it could be the whole division, say at Lexmark. It doesn't matter. I'm a good employee. Didn't they realize that? I'm a good mechanical engineer or whatever you are. And people don't like telling their friends. They don't like telling their spouse. They don't like telling their kids. That's a mistake. When you're out of work, tell everybody you're out of work. But you don't have to say, I'm a loser, I got laid off. Or what you tell people is, I'm looking for my next opportunity. Just tell them, I'm an electrical engineer, I've been around manufacturing for a long time, and I'm looking for another opportunity. You don't have to explain anything, and nobody will ask, okay? It's not the stigma it used to be either since about 2008. Get over it. Guess what? No matter how bitter you are about anything, don't tell anybody. You can go in the closet, your scream room, or whatever. But if you come across as being a bitter person, who's going to hire somebody that's not going to be fun to be around? If you're always complaining about things, I don't want you on my team. You're a complainer. And it doesn't matter just how sad your story is and how unfairly you were treated. Okay? That's actually where it helps to meet other people that are out of work and looking too. Because you can spend a few minutes. It's sort of wasted time, but that's because I'm maybe not that compassionate. But you can spend a few minutes. You can spend a few minutes talking about it, but then move on. Then start talking about search strategies and people you've met and opportunities that are out there. Get over it. Part 3. A lot of people will say, you'd be amazed at the kind of resumes and phone calls and emails I get. They'll say, I'm a single mom and I really need a job. And it's like, wow, that's wonderful, I think. But am I going to hire somebody because they need a job? I want to hire somebody that really, really wants to work with me, thinks the stuff we're doing is the coolest stuff, right? And you may be all tied up in your personal life. You may have financial issues, but nobody else cares, okay? Boy, that sounds really neat. When you're hiring somebody, you don't care. And in fact, I'm going to tell you a little bit later, it's not about you, okay? So even though you feel this way, be really careful about your sharing things in your personal life. So now, the beginning of networking is your 30-second pitch. People used to call them elevator pitches or 1-minute pitch. Might even be better if it's a 15-second pitch. Shorter is always better. Get to the point. Then you want to just say, I'm an electrical engineer with a manufacturing background, and I moved into sales, international sales. But end it. That's it. You don't have to tell anybody. The person you're networking with isn't going to hire you. And the person you're networking with will talk to you a little bit if you're a good conversationalist, but if you're a pest, if you just go on and on. Some people in their 30-second pitches never stop. I'll have to stop them after 2 or 3 minutes. Sometimes I wish I had a stopwatch, and it's like, let's just see how long they go. You know, let's just see. Keep it really, really short and to the point. What happens is, so now I'm on the don't get eliminated. If you're a pest, if you're not efficient communicator, if you're not succinct, people won't want to spend any time with you. They will avoid you, okay? When you do communicate with people, keep it short and sweet. What do they say? The best presentations, I'm probably going to break the rule today, have a really strong finish, a really strong end, and almost no time in between, right? You need to develop that skill, okay? You start out, you say, I'm interested in your job, you know, or whatever the point is. Get right to the message. I have all the qualifications you're looking for, okay? And say, I'd like to, you know, schedule a follow-up meeting, whatever. Boom, boom, boom. Make it really, really quick. If you're applying to a job and they're looking, sometimes the job descriptions will have 30 or 40 things on them. Look at the ones that are written first. Those are most important. Look at the top 2 or 3. And then you might say something like, I meet all your requirements. Don't say you meet some, you'll get eliminated. Say, I meet all your requirements, and then point out the top 2 or 3. Say, I'm adept at, you know, skilled at, whatever, boom, boom. Don't go through all of them, you'll get eliminated. Just the top couple. Say, I'd like to schedule a follow-up meeting or schedule an interview. Boom, I've attached my resume that has the details of my background. But keep it short. If you had to read 625 cover letters, which ones would you just delete, get rid of? The ones that are too long, right? That ramble. It's like, that's not the kind of employee you want. Resume. When you're out of work, there's a couple things you need right away. A resume is one of them. People will wordsmith their resumes. They'll think, I didn't get a job because of my resume. That's not true. And this is one of the areas where Job Club can really, really help you, okay? Put together a very, very sharp resume. And essentially, there's 2 types, okay? There's a chronological resume, and then there's a skills-based resume. And chronological is what you might think are most common. But if you want to go back and apply for a job that was something you did 8 years ago or 10 years ago, or it wasn't your most recent job, then you just go to something that talks about your skills. And Job Club can help you with that. But your resumes, people try to put everything in their resume that they've done because it's very, very important, and they don't want to leave anything out because that's somehow why they didn't get the job, because they left something out. I'll get 3-page resumes that they're all the way out to the edge, they've changed the margins, and people will put it in 8-point type. It's like, really? Really? So think of it as a newspaper. You're looking at the front page. It has a headline on it, and then it has a couple different subjects, topics, articles in there. They each have a smaller headline, and then the first thing you say in each of those is the most important thing. If you think of it, just because when they first look at your application, they're going to have seen your cover letter, and it's going to say you have all the requirements. They're going to do a 3-second check on your resume to see, is it really true? Do they have a degree? Do they have any work experience? They'll spend just a few seconds. They'll say, pass the test. You're not getting eliminated. Really don't get hung up on it. People will think that nobody's calling me back, nobody's answering. I'm going to change my resume again. LinkedIn. I'm a big user of LinkedIn. And as an employer, when we hire somebody, if they send me a resume, I always double check the people I'm going to interview, what they have on LinkedIn. Because it's a confirmation. And if I see any differences, I have zero tolerance. So make sure your resume and your LinkedIn profile agree. And on things like resumes and LinkedIn profiles, on LinkedIn it's a summary. On resumes, a lot of people will put an objective, and the objective will be, I want to get a job. It's like, really, people? Really? That doesn't help me that you want to get a job. What helps me is if you say that you say something, a summary of who you are, your skill sets, hey, right at the top, then I can check the box. Yes, this person has the skills I'm looking for, so I'll look at it more closely later. Same thing on LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, I think it says a summary. On your summary, get right to the heart of who you are right away. And then you get to look on chronological order, your experience, and you write it. So your experience and then your education below that. If you were going to use LinkedIn, and I strongly suggest that, you need to develop, you can't have a LinkedIn profile and then 3 connections. So use it to network. They actually do a wonderful job here showing you how to use LinkedIn. Business cards. So when I'm meeting somebody, networking with them, and trying to find out if they're a person I should follow up with, they may give me a business card, but that's not on them. I have to give them. All you need is your name and your contact information. Give them that. If you don't have one, go get one. It costs, I think you can get them for free, but for 10 or 15 bucks, you can get nice looking business cards. Finances. Here at Job Club, you know, when you're out of work, especially in 2008, 2009, 2010, a lot of people thought, well, I've always been employed. It's going to be easy to find a job. It might take longer than you think, and it's always better if you worry about that on the front end of being unemployed. So here at Job Club, they talk about that. What's your income and what's your outgo, and where can you make changes that really won't hurt you that much, that it'll extend the period of time while you're unemployed. And everybody deals with their finances, but most people wait until they're in real trouble to deal with it from a search point of view. What do they say? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So it's always easier to start making those changes earlier. It's difficult, though, when you talk about the things you're going to cut back on, you know, you and your family. You talk about that, and nobody likes it. And it sort of feeds into that feeling that, gee, I'm a loser because I'm unemployed. You have to get over that. Your attitude is everything. If I meet you and I'm thinking about introducing you to somebody that I might know that has a job and you might fit that, if you're feeling sorry for yourself, if you project to me that you think you're a loser, then why should I think any different? I'm not going to introduce you to people. I'll say I'll think about it, you know. Thank you very much. It's the same thing if you get in front of somebody and you're talking to them, whether it's just networking or it could be an interview. And a lot of times you'd be surprised. Something ends up being sort of the precursor to an interview that you don't even know. Always be upbeat. Yeah, I had a lot of fun at that last job, and there were a lot of challenges, a lot of great things I did, but it was kind of too much the same over and over again. I want a bigger challenge. They weren't giving me big enough challenges. Whatever, just come across being very, very optimistic and aggressive. Even if you really deep down inside don't feel that way, you know, fake it. People like hanging out with successful people, with happy people, not with other depressed people. So well, I'm telling you, you want a job, you know, be outgoing and aggressive and positive. So networking. I'll tell people when I give my networking talk that help friends help their friends, okay? It's so much trouble trying to hire somebody. If I'm a manager at a company, any company, and I know I need help and it's been approved in the budget, I have to now write a job description. Then I sit down with HR, and HR adds layers to the job description. Then we have to run ads, and then we have to sort through the resumes, and then we have to interview the candidates, and then out of the candidates, you know, gee, they seemed okay, you know, none of them really stood out. And if you hire somebody and they don't work out, you know, then you have to go through that process of getting rid of them and then start the whole process over again. It's so much work. People don't like doing it. So you know what they do? They complain to their friends, you know. Hal, do you know, you gotta know somebody. I'm gonna have to hire somebody. You used to work at, you know, wherever you used to work, and they had a bunch of great people. Are any of them looking? That's what happens most of the time. That's why there's a hidden job market. Now, how do I find that job? Well, I don't know how, or Hal doesn't know that I'm looking for somebody. You don't know Hal knows me, and I have a job, right? But what you do is you talk to lots of people. And if you talk to somebody and you're talking to Steve here and you say, Steve, what do you do? And Steve will say, well, I used to work at ABC Corporation, and I had a great career there. Really? Because now you're interested maybe in that company. You say, well, do you know anybody who's still there? And say, yeah, I know Hal, So you say, well, could you give me an introduction to Hal? As soon as you do that, Hal doesn't know you. He's not going to give you the time of day, but he likes Steve, and he knows and respects Steve. So he's going to offer you that same level of respect. So now when you send him that little email introduction, and you say, hi, Hal, Steve told me you were working at ABC Corp, and we should talk. You get to ask that one favor. Be short. If you give him the real long, he's going to go back to Steve and say, who's this loser you sent me, So you respect that. You send him that nice email, and you ask him for that favor. And he'll say, sure, I'll meet you for coffee, or whatever the ask is. So networking, this is where it's really not about you, okay? Most people, when they network, they'll say, well, I'm looking for a job. I, was working at Lexmark. Those schmucks laid me off. They shut down the whole division. I worked really, really hard there. That's not networking. Networking is where you say, hi, I'm Rick. I'm an electrical engineer. What do you do? And you flip it right away, because you don't know yet if that's the person that's going to help you or not. And I'm going to have to, in the next hour, network with everybody in this room, right? So then when he tells me what he's doing, it's like, nope, he's nothing interested. Well, here, it was nice talking to you, all right? And then I go over to Galen here, and I find out, wow, really? Whatever, something, he's worked somewhere and knows something that I have an interest in. So I ask him more about that. People love to talk about themselves, okay? So the way you network is you get them talking about themselves, but in an area where you have a skill or an interest. Now, when we're done and I give him my business card, I can follow up with him and I can ask him one thing, maybe two, but think of one. I can say, can you introduce me? We were talking about ABC Corporation and you said you worked there. Do you still know anybody there? And if so, could you introduce them to me? You get that one ask. So networking is the most powerful way to find a job. So since I've been doing this here, I've been in Lexington for 4.5 years now. And people call me up, send me job leads all the time, or job leads. They'll say, we're looking for somebody, can you help? Because they know I know a lot of people, okay? You just get known for, all those people are looking for help and they don't want to run the ads. And so you can tap into that market too if you get good at networking. Single most important thing you should do. But before you can do networking, you have to know it's not about you. You have to have a business card. You need a profile on LinkedIn. You need a resume. Because nothing's worse than when somebody says, okay, send me your resume and I'll introduce you to that person. And you say, oh, oops. So hidden jobs. So we talked about that already. That really is where all the jobs are. So I'll tell you a way to cheat, and I'll tell people that's what they taught me in school, because I can make hard problems, I can do them real easily, and to the uneducated or people that don't know the things I know, that seems like cheating. But when you apply for jobs online, and a lot of companies will do that, they'll say, no, this is how we do it. There's a way to cut in line, and I know cutting in line isn't very nice, but if you are one of many, and there's hundreds of resumes, how are people going to find your resume? Well, the secret is to get introduced to somebody at that company at a high enough level that has some say in that hiring process. If you get introduced to that person and a friend of that person hiring says, you ought to take a look at Hal here. Hal was introduced to me by Melissa, and I really respect Melissa. all of a sudden, you are one of the resumes they're going to take a close look at. Boom, you just went to the top of the list. It doesn't mean they're going to hire you. It doesn't mean that at all. But it means if there were 500 resumes submitted, you're all of a sudden the one of 10 or 20. You know, and is that cutting in line or cheating? It's really, really smart to do, is what it is, if you really want that job, okay? If you just think you can send off resumes in the internet and you're going to get a job, it won't happen. Well, it might, but I might get really, really old first. Okay, interviewing, they do mock interviews here, and it's actually real hiring managers that come in here, and that's kind of a neat thing. And the more you practice, the better you'll get at it. My wife used to make me mock interview with her all the time, and it's like, it was so annoying because it didn't feel natural. But she was, you know, she would ask questions, she would critique my answers, and it kind of worked. You'd get better and better at doing it. But we're still at the place where you're not getting hired yet. You still run the risk of getting eliminated, okay? So I had an interview. We were hiring somebody, and it was down at Frankfurt in the old Capitol Annex. It was going to be a great job, a director for the Innovation Network, and one of the candidates showed up 5 minutes late. How do you think that went over? Do you think there was any excuse she could give us at all why we should even consider moving forward? And the answer is no. The answer is no. If you can't show up on time for an interview, I mean, there's no way you could trust that person going forward. Nobody will hire you if you're late for an interview. So how do you not be late for an interview? You're early, right? You're early for the interview, and if you don't know where it is, maybe a day or two before, you got to go find the building, figure out where you can park, do that kind of thing. Because no excuse will work. Gee, I couldn't find any parking. It's like, well, everybody else found the parking that we're interviewing. You know, they won't tell you that. They won't tell you that. Let me just real quick see what I have here. I'm almost done. Uh-oh. We'll open it up for questioning. When you come in and you see the receptionist when you're interviewing, are you nice to them? You know, are you pleasant? Do you ignore them? I got a job once. This was a CEO of a $450 million company, and it was down to me and one other person. And the swing vote was the owner's administrative assistant. And she said to Peter, Rick was really nice to me when he came, and we had a wonderful conversation. She told me later, she said, yeah, and the other guy was kind of arrogant, kind of a prick. And so the owner wasn't too sure what to do, and his admin has been keeping him out of trouble for years and years, so I got the job. But you don't know, and boy, I was around family businesses. The gardener, you might blow off the gardener. The gardener could be the nephew of the owner or something. You have no idea, so be nice to everyone. On things to do to get hired, okay? On getting hired, there's the interview itself, okay? And you have to be good at taking their questions and giving clear, concise responses. Concise, keep them short again, give them an opportunity to ask follow-on questions. But the questions they're going to ask are pretty predictable. You know, they're going to tell you things like, tell me your greatest weakness. They're going to say things, you know, have you ever had a conflict at work? They're going to try to trip you up. They might say, you know, tell me about a great accomplishment you've had. And those are pretty easy for people. The other ones are a little bit harder. So when you talk about things that are tougher, those are the responses you should practice before you go in. And for each person, they're going to be different. I always like taking a negative and turning it into a positive. You know, I would say, well, I get criticized a lot because people tell me I drive my team too hard. You know, because these guys wanted to make a lot of money. They didn't care about you being nice, but it's going to be different for each of you. So think about what those are and practice. Practice at home, practice with your husband or wife, or practice here at Job Club. So when you also show up at the interview, they may or may not have copies of your resume printed out. If they don't, would you have copies to pass out to everybody? Yes, you would. Right? You'd have a notepad there so you could take notes. You'd have your business cards again with your contact information, right? After the interview, you're going to send a follow-up, a thank you note, and what you should do is send a different one, a unique one, to each person that interviewed you. Because what you're trying to do now is set the stage. Let's say I'm one of 4 finalists. Who are they going to hire? The odds are pretty good there, right? 1 out of 4. 1 out of 4. I still don't like those odds. I want to make it 1 out of 1, right? So you do those things. So you want to be, you're never right there with thank you letters and the things I've said, you're never going to be the one, okay? There'll still be somebody else. Okay, we like these 2. So this is where, I'll tell you a trick right now how you can get hired every time if you're one of those 4. If first you do those things I told you, references. Okay? People will put references on their resume. Don't do that. That's silly. Just don't do that. So your references, when you don't want them to call their references until you've talked to your reference. Okay? And what I would always do is I'd call my reference. I'd say, Tony, I said, I think you're going to get a call. I'd like to use you as a reference. Is that okay? Tony, since I keep in touch with him, is going to say yes. He's going to say sure. I'd say, okay, here's the 3 things they're looking for, okay? And I think I convinced them, but they expressed a little bit of concern in this one area here, like maybe our background wasn't right. And then I'll tell Tony, remember the time that we were doing this project here, and this is what we did that speaks to that concern of theirs. Maybe you could tell them about that. And I'm going to actually send that in writing to Tony. So I'm spoon feeding him the answer to the reference. Okay, when they call up, they'd say, you know, what's your title, where'd you work together, how long do you know him, whatever. And then Tony jump right in and say, oh yeah, I loved Rick, you know, and let me tell you a couple of stories. And then at the end, the person on the reference check didn't have to do anything really. And they'll come back, they'll say, holy smokes, Rick's way better than Steve. Look at this. The things we thought were weaknesses were actually strengths. It's the simplest thing in the world that nobody does, okay? Which is spoon feed your references. Tell them what they should say. You tell them. Don't leave it to chance. And then ask him, Tony, can you call me up after they call you and check up and tell me how it went? Because the final way I'm going to make sure I get hired is Tony will say, well, yeah, they bought all that. And they said what they really liked in your background was this other thing. They said that was absolutely most important to them. Whatever he tells me is going to be important feedback. So when they call me in now to just make sure, you know, the one final meeting, they're like fish at the end of a line that I've already played out. Now I'm just going to scoop them up. It's going to be pretty easy. So references, okay? Use that to try to get a job. And, well, other things. So when I was looking for a job, maybe like a lot of you, I had multiple opportunities I was going after at the same time. And people would typically, once you made it past the stage where they were eliminating people and now they're digging in deeper, so there might be between 10 and 20 candidates, and they might send you an email or call you on the phone and say, could you describe something in your past that you did? You know, they're trying to learn a little bit more where you led a team like this team, or whatever the question is. For each of your searches, it'll be kind of the same thing. As you develop those responses, save them. You know, save them, and I would file them by industry, or, you know, I would cross-file them multiple ways. And then when people would ask me a question, again, for follow-up information, I could dig through these past responses I've given, take that file, rename it first to the new company, and then tailor it to them. exactly to them. That way I could have after a period of time, I could have a very, very well thought out written response that I could send to them in reasonably short time. In fact, it got to the point to me where I could send it in like 10 or 15 minutes, but I thought then they wouldn't think I really thought about it, so I'd write it and then wait and send it the next day. It would take me, so the 3 times, the 4 times I was looking for jobs, it'd take me about 6 months to find a job. But these were then CEO jobs. I thought that was pretty good, but and then I would save them from each job search, because a turnaround guy, once you turn around and sell it, you're looking again. So, I had pretty extensive files, but in a way it was kind of fun if you looked at it as a game. And it wasn't fun being unemployed. It was always kind of interesting thinking what that next opportunity would be. But you can get really good at it really fast, though, if you apply yourself. And here in Lexington, most of the people looking for jobs, most of you are very, very well educated. You're smart. You just haven't been looking for a job as long or as often as I have. But so you can do it. You can do it. And the workplace, actually, it's getting harder and harder for employers to find good people. And a lot of times employers will pass over good people because those good people aren't great at communicating how they can help that company. Back to it's not about me, it's always about them, the company, the person I'm networking with. So if you sort of take these learnings, these job club learnings to heart and work on them, you will find a great job. We can't tell you when. All we know is the people that do these things tend to get jobs much faster than the people that don't. And that's it. So are there any questions? Yes?
So as an employer, what is the characteristic when you interview someone that you look for personally?
Me, I look for passion. I look for passion. Whatever, if the person isn't passionate about doing what I'm interested in getting done, it's not going to work, I've found, in the long run. Passion, number one. It's sort of equal to that, but behind it, I always look for the passion first, is they have to be smart, okay? I'm maybe different than some employers in that I don't care if they have exactly what I need. If they're intelligent and they have they have other accomplishments, and not even transferable skills, you could say, but even less so on that. If they're smart and passionate, I'm all in. I like the person already and want to hire them. If somebody doesn't really care, why should I care, though? I don't. And if somebody's doing something because they have to, and I understand we all need to earn money, but somebody else can hire them, not me. Yes?
What's the suggested resources you would check on companies when you're researching the company?
So to me, you just Google everything. You go on LinkedIn, look at people that work there. You Google things. If it's a public company, you look at their SEC filings to see how they're doing. Me, if they're a little bit smaller, I look at their proxy statement, and it's called a Def 14A, and then you can find out all the dirty stuff. You look on their financials, you look at the notes, what the auditors put on the notes to their financials, but that was sort of in my area. And you can find out, related party transactions and all the dirty laundry that's going on in the company. People that work there, talk to people that work there, meet them, find them. It's pretty easy to do. But you have to be passionate about what they're doing. Study their competition. See what their competition's doing that's different. If somebody comes in and tells me, well, Rick, ABC seems like a great company, but aren't you kind of getting your butt kicked by, DEF and GHI or whatever? I kind of like that when people are a little more provocative. I might not suggest you do that, though. It's got to be sort of the right position. But think about it, though. do I want an employee that I'm going to tell you everything to do? Here's the parameters that I want you to operate in and spend your whole time doing this. I want to hire somebody's the gray matter sort of between their ears and get them to understand what we do, how we do it, and then really try to figure out who our customers are, and then maybe what could we do better that we better serve our customers. I'm a little bit paranoid always. If you're not getting better, you're getting worse. If you're not, in chemistry, equilibrium, that whole thing, there's nothing true about that at all, but not in the work world. Sir.
I've heard that a lot of the major companies use scanners for scanning your resume and then use keyword search.
Yeah.
So if you don't
Yeah.
put that word on there, you're immediately eliminated.
You'll never get a job that way. Network. It's the wrong way to try to get a job. You play the lottery.
Sometimes.
Did you ever win? So I do posts on LinkedIn, and I'll do things like the law of large numbers or averages or things. You're going down a rabbit hole that'll just frustrate you. You'll keep redoing your resume because you're not getting results. Just start networking with people. Get out and go network with people. You'll find out more that way. And then if you network with somebody at a company that is doing those automated keyword searches or whatever, and somebody says, "Did you get a resume, from Bill?" And I hear he's really good. You should find that and take a look at it. Boom, you get put on the top of the list. Questions? Sir?
What if you're transitioning into a different type of industry?
Okay. I would never, that's wonderful, but I wouldn't describe it that way. I would say, I'm going to use my diverse set of skills, or these two things I've done in the past, because that really, for me, was the perfect background, and now I'm going to focus them in this area. So don't make it a new area, make it a different area that's the culmination of the things you've done up till now. Describe it that way every time, okay? Because if you have no experience, it's like, if you're a little older, you're going to expect more money and all. It just isn't going to work. But if it's a culmination of what you've done in the past, then heck yeah, I'm all in. I love that when I hear that. So it's just how you describe it. Yes?
I got advice from another place specifically not to put your picture in LinkedIn because it allows them to use ageism or whatever to eliminate you.
So I'm sure there's discrimination that goes on. On LinkedIn, people that don't put their picture on there are referred to as shadow people, and they think there's something wrong. You're trying to hide something. What are you trying to hide? Right away, I don't like that. I think most employers don't like that. Now, let's go to age. And let's say, do people discriminate? Maybe. What I'm going to sell is I have all these experiences that is going to keep you out of trouble. That wealth of experiences you need. And this young man over here, with all due respect, he's very smart and all, but he doesn't have what I have. You just tell your story different. Will it help? Yes. Will it prevent that from happening? Probably not. Back again to attitude. If you think you're old and you're not, you're going to have a hard time getting a job, you won't get a job. So you just don't project that. You just don't do it. But on LinkedIn, put your picture on there. Put your picture on there. Old, young, it doesn't matter. I think you'd be doing yourself a disservice if you left it off. Make it a nice picture. I see some funny pictures, I'll tell you. Just keep it professional. Just think this is professional on LinkedIn. I send to my colleagues sometimes when I see really stupid pictures on LinkedIn, but that's just me amusing myself. So. Yes, sir.
Question, I've recently relocated back to Lexington after about 30 years being away.
Yes.
So a lot of my networking challenges are not here.
Yeah.
Because I don't have any.
Yeah.
I found positions I've applied for, and a couple things you've mentioned, and I'll be redirected to a website to fill out
Yeah.
information on my history. I'm also researching people at that company, seeing recruiters, human resource contacts on LinkedIn, making connections through there, and getting time on their calendars.
Where'd you go to school?
University of Kentucky.
See, you're a local. Whether you've been away, you're going to bring back some rich experiences. Just keep networking. Keep doing what you're doing. Push that really hard. What I found in Kentucky is Kentuckians love Kentuckians, and Kentuckians love everybody and everything about UK, and Kentuckians love everything about the county they're from. You know, so from my point of view, I'm a foreigner, and I'm always going to be a foreigner here in Kentucky. So, but I'm, yeah, just keep pushing, just keep pushing. Okay. Yes.
So I'm currently in a master program that's gonna be an estimate of 3 years.
Yes.
If the opportunity presents itself in the next year that say I can move up in whatever company I decide to, should I take that opportunity or should I continue my master's?
I personally would take the opportunity and continue your master's. Why can't you do both?
Well, I was thinking with relocation purposes, like right now I'm with the University of Kentucky, so let's say the opportunity's in Ohio.
Yeah, I'd just do both. There's always a way to do both. Why somebody would be interested in you is because you're aggressive. You're working, are you working and going to school right now?
Yes, I work here.
Yeah. So they're saying, we like that aggressiveness. So for you to do well in that new organization, just keep being aggressive. Keep being you. You know, and does that mean you come back here to school, go to school online, transfer your units, you know, whatever? I don't know. I would do both. But that's me. Sort of super aggressive. So, yes.
How do you get experience? Because that's what it seems like most of the people ask. Experience.
How do you get experience? What a great question. People will, and I was supposed to repeat questions and I never did. So, oh well. We're going to start over. No. Well, once again, from an attitude point of view, don't ever think you have no experience. You have experience. I don't care if you're a high school kid, a college kid, whatever. The things you've done in your life, you may have done them for fun. You may have been a volunteer. They may have been jobs that you had. You describe those experiences in a way, those that you've had, and that's your experience. Sure, I've done that. You know, I can work with Job Club, any of us can work with you and look at your background and describe how you actually do have experience. They don't, people are looking when they're hiring, they want you to tell them a story that's a believable story that allows them to hire you. If you're a likable person, if you're a nice person and you interview well and you're friendly to be around and you seem intelligent, just tell a story that'll allow them to hire you. If you say, no, I don't, or whatever, then it's like, that's too bad. We were going to hire you, you know?
Because I'm a phlebotomist. I don't have experience at the classroom.
You stick a needle in my arm and draw blood? Hi, and you don't have experience? I think you have lots of experience. Think about it. Think about the people you deal with day to day, right? Are some of them scared to death? How do you get them to stick that needle in your arm? And then it's not just one vial. Like for me, you want to pull out like 12 vials of blood. It's like, really? Save some for me. How do you do that? You must have a skill set, right? You must have a skill set. How big is that needle? Holy smokes, you know?
But they ask you, like, beside the classroom, that's the thing that I've been getting. When you go for the interview, they just sitting here talking to you. Beside the classroom experience, what else do you have? Have you stick somebody outside the classroom?
Have you ever had a part-time job?
No.
You've never had a part-time? Did you ever do anything for fun?
Well, no, nobody gonna let me book them.
No, we'll talk. You have lots of experience. You just have to be able to look at it a little bit different, okay, to describe things. I had a lady who I wanted to get a job with a startup. I thought she had all the right skills. She was a singer in a band in Nashville. That's what she had done before. And so I told the people at the company that needed this COO, because she's just a great person, very well educated, I said, well, she has startup experience in the entertainment field. right? She was running her own business. Well, what, you're a lead singer in a band, right? So sometimes it's just how you describe things, you know? And she never, the company never asked her because she was just so presentable, you know? She just knew so much about the things that this company needed for someone to come in. Yes?
You mentioned volunteerism. I do a lot of that. It gives me the ability to assume leadership roles and teaching positions that my career choice has not given me the opportunity to get into.
Yeah.
But in the last interview I was in, the gentleman looked at these things listed on my resume and said, "You sure have a lot of hobbies." And it made me feel that that might not be something put on there. I'm hoping you think that's an isolated case.
So a lot of people that interview probably aren't very good at interviewing. When I was young, I told, and not to disparage HR people, but I like growing things. You know, gardening and things like that. But to me, growing is the theme that follows through from work, growing things at work, to you know, with my kids, growing them, to, you know, to gardening and cooking and all those things. And you could say they're all hobbies. Or you could say none of them are hobbies. There's a theme. So anyway, this person was unimpressed, this HR person. I luckily already had the job. Otherwise, they would have never hired me. But it's the same elements in the hobbies I have. They're the same elements. I have to take something in one form, and then I have to nurture it and grow it and get it into another form. And then when I do that, and then when it really takes off, then the easy part comes, and then you sort of have the harvest, you know, where you're collecting sort of the fruits of your labor. But in the meantime, you have to start over again, because otherwise when that plant or whatever peters out, and then the things you do with that product, you know, for me, like cooking, to me the themes always flow together. So if I was interviewing you, I would be fascinated, and I would want to know on all those things in your hobby what the common element that you thought was in there. Because if there really is that common element, back to what I said, the passion being the first thing on hiring somebody, if there's a real passion there and it's what I need, it's like, wow, holy smokes, I found the right person. But it really ends up working out that way. The perfect job for you and you know, you'll find each other sooner or later. And you just have to improve the odds by talking to more people and finding out more and more things that are actually out there available. Yeah, so I would, it's not going to be isolated. Other people might have that same view too. And, you know, that wasn't the job you wanted anyway, is what I would say. That's my defensive mechanism coming out. So, sir.
A question on the network business card, it's just contact information
Yeah.
only?
Yeah, you could put something, you know, a mechanical engineer or something, if that was useful, but you don't have to. Okay. You don't have to. And then what you could do is you could, you know, write a little note on the back. My handwriting's pretty sloppy, you know, about what we talked about, and this is what I want you to do, kind of thing. But you have to be pretty outgoing, pretty aggressive when you're networking. And if you're nice about it and people are talking about themselves, remember I told you it wasn't about you, then usually people don't think of you as being super aggressive, because they got to tell that story again that their wife told you she'd kill you if you ever told it to her again. So. Anything else? All right, thank you.
Rick, once again, home run. We're so appreciative of you taking time to taking your time to be with those that are in need of just that little bit of extra information, so that they can have an advantage in their job search. So we want to thank Rick Johnson again for his commitment, and we look forward to him joining us many, many times in the future. We plan to put this video on our website as well as YouTube. So we invite you to once again visit our website at fayette.ca.uky.edu And another reminder that we do meet every second and fourth Tuesday of each and every month, and everyone is invited to come and learn the most recent information about the job search.